In this video, we're rebuilding the front swivel hub on an 80 series LandCruiser step by step. We'll start by pressing in a new axle seal, then install fresh top and bottom swivel bearings, pack the CV joint with high temperature moly grease and slide it back into place. Refit the wheel bearings and hub, making sure everything's torqued to spec, and finally bolt up the caliper and reinstall the hub or drive flange to finish the job. I'm reinstalling the new inner axle seal. Then place on your felt, your rubber and your steel locking ring. Note here that I actually put the black rubber that I've got in my hand right now around the wrong way. I did take it off but didn't film it. I put it flat side goes to the outside. Handy tip. The split in the steel ring goes to the top when reinstalling later as well. Now it's time to reinstall the swivel housing. I put new kingpin bearings in top and bottom and pre-packed the grease before install. You'll need to tilt the housing towards you, then place the lower bearing in and then slide the housing back. Now I push down on the top retaining plate which holds the top bearing in place. Then you can tighten down the bearing retaining cap. Now I reinstall the lower steering arm. It slides into place pretty easily and locks the swivel hub housing into place. Now reinstall the cone washer, the washer and the nut on all four bolts hanging out of the lower steering arm. I tightened one of the nuts all the way which held the whole steering arm in place, so the steering knuckle won't move now. I torqued the top and bottom steering knuckle bolts to 96 Newton meters with a torque wrench. All 6 bolts used a 17mm socket as well. I tightened the bottom bolts in a cross pattern sequence. Now reinstall the tie rod end into the steering arm. Reinstall the castle nut and also put in a new split pin as you go. And for this you need a 19mm socket. Now we install the metal split ring with the split facing to the top of the swivel hub. Then put your black rubber gasket on next. And now install the felt. And the kit comes with 2 new retaining brackets as well, which overlap when you install them. There is 6 6mm threaded bolts with a 10mm socket head on them that you need to reinstall all the way around the swivel hub. When installing the second bracket, make sure it overlaps as you can see at the bottom of the picture here, so the hole is exposed and it locks into place easily then. Work your way around all 6 bolts, tightening a small amount each time as you go, and the torque spec on these was only about 5 or 6 Newton meters, I can't remember actually. Now take a small amount of moly grease and wipe it around the new inner seal that we just installed before. I didn't record it, but I did actually replace all the grease in the CV joint with new moly grease. As you can see there, some dripping out as I install the CV joint into the housing. I had to wiggle the axle around a little bit till it finally locked into place, as you can see here. Also note there is a flat section on the CV top and bottom which you need to line up so it pushes into place easily. Now move the CV joint around and fill the void with some moly grease. This is one part of the job where I would suggest to double glove with your latex or nitrile gloves, whatever sort of gloves you're using. That way you can take the glove off and you've got a clean hand for picking up stuff or even turning on and off your GoPro. Now install a spindle and make sure the groove section I pointed to is facing downwards. Now install the brake dust cover and the 8 bolts around it. This was a little tricky to do, and I did actually get a hand just to hold it in place till I started 1 or 2 bolts. I torque these bolts to 47 Newton meters. As you can see, use a crisscross pattern to torque them to spec as you go. Reinstall the ABS wheel speed sensor and make sure it lines up, and also clean it before you put it back in as well. 6mm bolt, 10mm socket needed to do it. Apply wheel bearing grease to the spindle. Ready to reinstall a hub with the new bearings already done. As you can see, I'm holding my thumb on the outer bearing which holds it in place while you reinstall the rotor and the hub onto the spindle. Now reinstall the brake caliper, and you need a 17mm socket to tighten the bolts. Now I reinstall the wheel temporarily just to make it easier to seat the wheel bearing as well. Some people just spin the disc, because I like to spin the whole wheel, and it gives you more leverage to make sure the bearing is seated properly. I just installed a couple of wheel nuts just to hold the wheel in place while I did the next process. I redid this section here just to show about make sure you install the thrust washer first, then install the inner locking nut, then the locking tab, and then the outer locking nut. And normally you do the wheel bearing up tight to start with, and then spin the wheel a few times, wriggle it around, and then back the wheel nut off. Now this is the locking tab. Also put on the next outer locking nut to hold the tab in tight while I bent the locking tab to hold the nut in place. Then I torque to spec the outer locking nut and bend one of the tabs towards you to prevent the outer locking nut from moving. Then I use a cold chisel to tap it down nice and flush with the side of the nut. Install a new flange gasket and then install the flange. I did have to wiggle it around a little bit to line up with the axle and the bolt holes in the hub. I pulled the axle out a little bit just to make sure that everything was correct so the snap ring could go back on. Now I reinstall my cone washers, my washers and my nuts. I use an 8mm bolt to thread into the end of the axle, and then once that's threaded in, use that to pull the axle out. So then when you go to put on your snap ring, it holds the axle out while you try and install a snap ring with the snap ring pliers. You can hear the snap ring click when it goes into the groove of the axle. Then all you do is take the bolt that I've installed, pull it in and out a few times to check the snap rings on fully. Reinstall the dust cap onto the flange with a soft faced mallet. Reinstall all your wheel nuts. I use an impact rod to make it a lot quicker. For steel wheels, the torque setting is 146 Newton meters. So all the wheel nuts on your wheels should be torqued to that. Alloy wheels be a different torque spec, so you'll need to check that out in your user manual or workshop manual. Reinstall your wheel dust cover and job is done. And that's how you rebuild the front swivel hub on an 80 series LandCruiser. If this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up and drop a comment below. I've got plenty more 80 series DIY LandCruiser content coming, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.